Hello everybody and welcome to this 100th Easy 11 Plus live lesson. It's a terrifying thought, isn't it? I wonder if there's anybody here who's been here right from the start. But probably you've all got much more important things to do. Well, Dimitri and I, we're going to be looking at multiple choice comprehension today, and I thought, going back to our roots, we'd go back to the very first paper that I looked at on this channel in Easy 11 Plus Live Lesson 1. And we'd look at Dimby, and we'd look at the he doesn't like appearing on YouTube apparently. He says no, he's off. And we'd look at the other two poems from that paper because we only looked at the first one in that lesson. Don't forget my special offer where you can send me your work for marking absolutely for free. Have a look at the 11 Plus Lifeline page, and there's a link at the top of the page and a banner where you can find out about that special offer. Well, Dimitri is desperate to get out of the room, so just give me a second. There you go, boy. All right. He loves you really, but it's just a bit socially overwhelming for him to have all of you watching him and passing comment. Speaking about passing comment, none of the comments are coming through yet in my chat stream, which is a great shame, but hopefully that will start to sort itself out in a little while. Ah yes, here's somebody. Dolly Liz, first comment. Robert, 1 million exclamation marks. Congratulations, 500,000. Your channel has grown just as the family on it. You deserve your 11,000 subscribers, definitely. In fact, you should have more. Live 100. Fantastic. What a comment. Well, that gets us off to a great start. Abdullah says, Eid Mubarak. Mubarak. But yes, the same to you and to all of you. Right, okay. Let's get cracking on. So we've got a few questions to look at today. Not too many, but they're quite challenging. So these are taken from my book, RSL Multiple Choice Comprehension Book 1, which is a fantastic book. And it has detailed and very fully explained answers for every single question, as you would expect from an RSL book. Thank you to everybody passing on the congratulations. That's Panda and Adve and Nadim and Anrit and many other people. Wonderful to have you all here. I can't give shout outs to everybody, but it's meant to apply to all of you. All right, okay. So I've set this up beautifully. So you've got the poem down there and the questions at the bottom. What organisation? So first question we're looking at was question 6 from this paper. Look at the verbs toss, pass, hit and push in this poem. Here is some description of these verbs effect when taken together. And we got some options. You know what? It's a short poem. It's lesson 100. I should be reading these dramatically. So, actor's cough. The wind. I saw you toss the kites on. No silly voices. It's poetry. It needs to be read properly. I saw you toss the kites on high and blow the birds. No, properly. I saw you toss the kites on high and blow the birds about the sky. And all around I heard you pass like ladies' skirts across the grass. O wind a-blowing all day long, O wind that sings so loud a song. I saw the different things you did, but always you yourself you hid. I felt you push, I heard you call, I could not see yourself at all. A wind a-blowing all day long, O wind that sings so loud a song. O you that are so strong and cold, O blower, are you young or old? Are you a beast of field and tree, or just a stronger child than me? O wind a-blowing all day long, O wind that sings so loud a song. I couldn't stop myself from doing silly voices in the end. It was impossible. There we are. I tried, people. I did my best to take this seriously because your education is a very serious matter and I care about it deeply. Right, well, that's the poem. So let's have a look at this question where we started. So we got those 4 verbs: toss, pass, hit, and push. Push. So let's track those down. We got toss, we have pass, we have hid, and we have push. There we are. That's our 4 verbs. Technology is working. That's good. Not always the case. Although it works more often these days than it did when I started out. I don't know if you were there in the lessons where I accidentally turned off the anyway, but fortunately I don't do that anymore, and I don't accidentally turn my microphone off in the middle of lessons. So the technological aspects have been improving over these last 100 lessons. Right, I should be doing the work, shouldn't I, and not just disappearing off into abstractions. These verbs affect when affect, so single effect, when taken together. They make the wind seem like a person. You toss the kites. I heard you pass. You hid. You push. Of course, these are personifications of the wind. That one is obviously true. So when it says which of these makes sense, doesn't necessarily mean is right, but makes sense. One definitely does. They make the wind seem like a juggler. Well, if it tosses the kites, that seems a bit like juggling. All around, I heard you pass. Do you hear a juggler pass? I mean, I guess, like anybody else, but I wouldn't have thought that was an especially jugglerish trait. But always you yourself you hid. I'm not really aware of jugglers hiding themselves. Can you imagine a sort of guerrilla juggler leaping out from behind your sofa? It'd be alarming, but unlikely. I felt you push, not especially juggler-like. So, yes for toss, but not really for the other ones. They make the wind seem changeable with lots of behaviours. It tosses things, it passes, it hides, it pushes things. Yeah, surely, the wind does all these different things. That's clearly true. They make us feel hostile to the wind. Are you hostile to a wind that throws kites into the air? Maybe if you don't like kites, otherwise unlikely. Tights, yeah. Times on stage wearing tights in various characters. Horrible itchy things. Don't wear them if you've got leg hair. Anyway, I'm quite hostile to tights in that regard, but not to kites. All around, I heard you pass. I heard you pass. Unless I'm exceptionally picky, I'm not likely to get cross about that. Hid, push maybe. I might dislike someone who pushes me, but it's the only one. Not really. 4. So it's 1 and it's 3. But these are the options we have to choose from. 1 and 3, that is D, and so we select D. Put that in our answer space. So it's about being systematic and it's about applying our common sense. Thank you to everybody who's turning up, who's making nice comments. Margaret wants a shout out for her cat Noah. Noah, it's an honour to have you here. I hope you're enjoying the lesson. I hope you enjoy seeing Dimitri flying the flag for your speech at the start of many of these lessons. Thank you to everybody who's wishing me kind regards on my 100th lesson. When it gets to the 200th, you can really start pitying me. Question 7. And all around I heard you pass like ladies' skirts across the grass. Okay, this is someone who really, really feels the need to rhyme, like William McGonagall, wonderful poet. You should definitely look him up. What do these lines... This is not by William McGonagall. What do these lines suggest about the wind? Okay. What do they suggest about the wind? It strokes the grass like a tailor preparing fabric. Well, definitely it strokes the grass. I heard you pass across the grass. Like a tailor preparing fabric. Well, fabric, yes, because we're talking about ladies' skirts, so fabric is involved. But like a tailor preparing fabric, this is about skirts being worn by ladies, presumably, unless they're just trailing them around like little dogs. So nothing really to do with tailors. I don't really get that one. Nah, don't think so. So we're being systematic, we're eliminating. Obviously, I'm explaining so it takes longer. You, when you're doing this in an exam and when you've had lots of practice, will be able to go through systematically eliminating much more quickly, especially when you're good at it. So don't try and cut corners in practice. Do it properly, check each option, eliminate it, and then you'll get to the point where you can do that quickly under time pressure. It sounds like the whispered chatter of society ladies. So again, this is kind of partly right and partly not. There is a whispering sound. It is to do with ladies and their skirts. But chatter, there's nothing to do with chattering. It's their skirts. So, not that. It makes a swishing sound as it brushes the grass like trailing fabric. Well, it is brushing the grass. It is like trailing fabric because skirts are made of fabric. Fabric meaning cloth. This is made of fabric. This is kind of fabric, fabric. But the swishing sound, well, the poem doesn't tell us that. All around I heard you pass. It doesn't tell us what sound it is. So maybe, but I'm not completely certain. Give it a question mark. It emphasises the green richness of the grass, like the colour of a dress. There's nothing here to imply that the dresses would have to be green. And this is all about, the question says, what do these lines suggest about the wind? So emphasising the richness of the grass would be entirely beside the point of the poem and, beg your pardon, how rude, and of the question. So, get rid of that. It's haughty and dismissive, like Robert Lomax, or like a wealthy and arrogant lady. Well, maybe, but this is about hearing the wind pass. There's nothing to imply that it's haughty and dismissive. So choosing between this and C, which is the option we've got left, C is the much better fit. Now there's an important lesson here, which is, and by the way I can see loads of people put C in the answers, which is great, very well done, which is that you are not looking for the perfect answer. You are looking for the best answer. And some people get really lost when they're doing multiple choice work of all sorts because they say, but none of these answers exactly matches what I think about the text. That's not your job. Your job is to find the answer that is the best fit for the question and for the text. And that might not mean that it is a perfect match with your interpretation. So don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. In other words, be prepared to choose the best one, even if you aren't completely happy with it. So the poem here does not tell us that the sound is a swishing sound. I think it's implied, but C is nonetheless by far the best match. Malini says, Robert, what will you do for live 200? I don't even know what I'm doing for live 101 yet, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. Okay, on to the legendary question 8. Legendary. I have no idea why, I'm just making this up as I go along. According to the child who narrates this poem, I should have said it in a child's voice. I saw you toss the kites on high and blow the birds about the sky, and all around I heard you pass like ladies' skirts across the grass. Is that a child's voice? Do you all speak like that? I'm sure you do. The child who narrates this poem, what is most unusual about the wind? Now, according to the child, so we're not being asked what we find most unusual. We're being asked what the narrator of the poem, not the poet, but the voice of the character is telling us these things, what they find most unusual. So we shouldn't let our own opinions get too much in the way. What is most unusual? So yes, unusual, but most unusual. So there may be more than one unusual thing here, but we have to find the most unusual thing. And lastly, about the wind, not about anything else. That may be obvious, but worth thinking about. This is the kind of detail that you should always apply to thinking about the question before you look at the options. Okay? Always. Because the trouble is, if you start plunging in at the options and going, oh, this looks good, this doesn't look good, it's really easy to miss some crucial detail in the question that would actually affect what you choose for your answer. So always do the kind of thing that I've just done. And the kind of underlining of key things in the poem that I've been doing here, that's really, really, really valuable, I would say, actually important. So, you can see the wind's effects, but not the wind itself. Well, first of all, is that even true? So, well, we can see in the middle stanza here, I saw the different things you did, but always you yourself, you hid. It goes on, I felt you push, I heard you call, I could not see yourself at all. And the rest of it is all about the things that the narrator observes. I saw you toss the kites on sky and blow the birds across the sky. I heard you pass. And then it ends with lots of questions. So already I'm looking at A and thinking that could well be the answer, because to me it seems like a really good match. But what I'm not going to do is just go and choose it and move on, because maybe there's some kind of trick, maybe there's something even better that I haven't thought of. So yes, I like it, but I'm going to push on. It seems female rather than male. There's only one thing in this poem that seems to me to have anything to do with being female or male. I mean, we don't even know whether the narrator is male or female. And that's a reference to ladies' skirts. But saying that the sound of the wind is like ladies' skirts, I think you're really stretching things if you turn that into saying the wind is female. I don't get that at all. Nah. There's nothing to support B, nothing at all. It only tries to destroy things, never to make them. So, I mean, it blows things about. It tosses the kites on high. It pushes things. It hides. But there's nothing in here about it destroying things. Yeah, it's naughty, like Grigri the cat, whom I didn't show you at the beginning. He really is naughty. He would put the wind to shame. But anyway, it's naughty. It's annoying. But it's not really destructive. Destroying or making, they're kind of beside the point here, I think. It doesn't like birds. It says, and blow the birds about the sky. Well, it also tosses kites around. Does that mean it doesn't like birds? Maybe it does. I don't know, maybe. You can see the wind, but not know why it does what it does. Ooh, hang on. So that seems really similar to A. And A, yeah, I like A much more than D. Anyway, it's a much closer match. D is really vague and debatable. So A or E, which seem really similar. A was, you can see the wind's effects, but not the wind itself. E is, you can see the wind, but not know why it does what it does. Now, not know why it does what it does, well, that does seem to kind of match the poem. There seems to be lots of questioning in it. And certainly the narrator doesn't seem to know why it does what it does. Maybe they aren't an expert in, patterns of atmospheric pressure or whatever. But there's one big difference between A and E. And when you're comparing different options that you find plausible, you find possible, believable, whatever, one of the most useful things you can do is narrow down what the key difference between them is, because that will make it easier for you to decide. So A says you can see the wind's effect, but not the wind itself. And E says you can see the wind. So there's a straight contradiction there. A says you can't see the wind, and E says you can see the wind. So, does the poem help us to answer this? Let's go through a different colour just because I'm feeling wildly creative. It's 100th lesson fever. So, I felt you push, I heard you call. I could not see yourself at all. Now, saying yourself like this is a bit odd, but that's what they said. And it boils down to, I could not see you. So E is contradicted. You can see the wind. No, you can't. The poem says that the narrator cannot see the wind. So, oops, that was supposed to be a cross out. So we are left with A as our answer. Now, I'm sure you got there much more quickly. I just wanted to explain it fully, and I've got to fill the lesson with something, haven't I? Okay, on to question 9, for which, as you can see, I beautifully sized the question space, the question answer space down here. Wasn't that a good bit of video presentation? Okay, streaming masterclass here. O wind a-blowing all day long, O wind that sings so loud a song. Deep poetry there. Why are these lines repeated after each verse? Who knows? The child has been hypnotised by the things blown around and round by the wind and ends up repeating the same lines as though in a trance. Well, I kind of like that. So there is something quite hypnotic about this. Even with the rhyme scheme, I saw you toss the kites on high and blow the birds about the sky, and all around I heard you pass like ladies' skirts across the grass. It is quite sort of lazy and hypnotic. I saw the different things you did, and so on. And so on and so on and so on. Maybe. So sometimes, I'm thinking about exam technique here, sometimes you don't want to decide straight away. You want to say, well, this one is possible, I'll come back to it. Because once you've ruled out the ones that aren't possible, it'll be much easier to judge. And when you've got the other ones that are possible to compare it to. The repeated lines emphasise how the wind also repeats its actions and its sounds again and again all day long. So it tosses the kites, it rustles around, it hides, it pushes, and it just goes on and on and on, making trouble. And again, and even in these repeated lines it says, O wind a-blowing all day long. O wind that sings so loud a song. So it's singing and blowing endlessly, repeatedly. So, yeah, B also looks pretty possible. I hope they aren't all as possible as this, or I'll be no better off than when I started. This poem was designed to be sung with music. Set to music, this chorus would be beautiful. So, you can get ones like this that look, they look really plausible. You say, yeah, I could believe that. Maybe that is the case. Maybe it's a song. But the fact is we have absolutely zero evidence to support it. Zilch. Pure speculation. It would be a complete guess. There's nothing else to suggest that this is a song. And so, yeah, it could be, but you can never say anything stronger than, yeah, it could be. This is never going to be the best answer once we've already found some other ones that are genuinely possible, which we have. The wind sounds as though it is saying these words as it swoops low across the grass. So all around I heard you pass like ladies' skirts across the grass. O wind a-blowing all day long, O wind that sings so loud a song. Does that sound like ladies' skirts, like the sound of skirts swishing on grass? O wind a-blowing all day long, O wind that sings so loud a song. Now, of course it doesn't say anything like ladies' skirts on the grass. Nothing like it. So that doesn't convince me. But then also, oh dear, all these silly voices, and I'm tickling my throat. I'm going to be coughing for the rest of the lesson now. And then I'm going to lose my voice. Oh well, never mind. I'll get it back for next week. We can hope. You'll be hoping I don't. Second stanza, nothing to do with sound. Third stanza, nothing to do with sound. So it'd be pretty odd to repeat this after every stanza, after every verse, depending what you want to call it. Doesn't much matter here. And make it all about sound when only 2 lines of the poem, the third and fourth lines, are actually about sound. And the only sound it's compared to is swishing skirts, and that doesn't sound like these lines. So all in all, no. E. The poet has run out of ideas, so has to repeat themselves. Well, they don't seem to run out of ideas because they keep coming up with new things to say, apart from these lines. So they could just have left these lines out and not repeated them. But also, this is a published poem. It's something that's been put out there and that I've then put in this question paper. It's not just some sort of load of rubbish that someone's dashed off in 10 minutes before they have to go on and hand it in for homework. And so I don't think the poet is a fool is ever going to be a useful answer to a question like this. No. And A and B are much better. Okay, A or B. Has the child been hypnotised, making this trance-like? A. Or is this to do with how the wind goes round and round doing the same kinds of things? Well, these are really, really, really difficult to choose between. I'm just going to make sure that, indeed, I don't come up with some answer that isn't actually the answer. They both look quite plausible. And we did say the poem sounds quite hypnotic. But, apart from the sound, does the narrator really sound hypnotised? They keep coming up with new things to say. They look at them tossing the kites, hearing the sound, and then seeing the things they did, but wondering, where are you, wind? I can't see you, you're hiding. Feeling the push, still looking, no, can't see you. And then asking all these questions. You that are so strong and cold, a blower, are you young or old? Are you a beast of field and tree? Or just a stronger child than me? That doesn't come across as a kind of hypnotised person writing in a kind of trance. They're really actively engaged, asking questions, looking for the wind. It doesn't really match. It's only really the sound that matches that idea. The actual content of the poem is not like someone in a trance at all. Whereas B is pretty hard to object to. The wind does sort of keep doing the same things. It's always hiding, it's pushing, it's calling, it's blowing, it's making noise, and the lines themselves emphasise that it keeps blowing, a blowing all day long, a blowing all day long, a blowing all day long. It keeps making noise, sing so loud a song, sing so loud a song, sing so loud a song. B is the most solid match. And so I think it's B that we need to end up choosing. Even though A runs it very, very, very close. But you have to pick the best answer, and so only A is going to be marked correct. Happy birthday to whoever's birthday it is. Someone's wishing happy birthday. And also happy birthday to Advay's teacher, whose birthday it apparently is. Right. Second poem, The Hayloft. I'm being a bit slow today, so let's see if I can pick up the pace a little bit. So on to the next poem, which is The Hayloft, which is down here. See how I did that? Smooth. very smooth. Let's see if I can just centre it a little bit better, because I've missed off a letter. That will do. Okay. This poem is about various things. Let's have another dramatic reading. Okay. The Hayloft. Through all the pleasant meadow side, the grass grew shoulder high, till the shining scythes went far and wide and cut it down to dry. These green and sweetly smelling crops they led in wagons home, and they piled them here in mountain tops for mountaineers to roam. Here's Mount Clear, Mount Rusty Nail, Mount Eagle and Mount High. The mice that in these mountains dwell now happy are than I. Oh, what a joy to clamber there! Oh, what a place for play! With the sweet, the dim, the dusty air, the happy hills of hay. The whole company there to read that. Okay, this poem is about, what is it about? Man's tragic destruction of nature. Climbing mountains, how much happier life is for children than for adults. The magic of imagination and transformation. Some famous American mountains. Well, two of these are about this actually being about mountains. Climbing mountains and some famous American mountains. What does it talk about mountains? They piled them here in mountain tops for mountaineers to run. What do they pile in mountain tops? These green and sweetly smelling crops. What are the crops? They are the grass that grew shoulder high and now has been cut down. So the grass has been cut, it's been brought in, it's been piled, and now it is piled like mountains. And when these mountains are named, they are clearly the child's names for these mountains of hay that this child, he or she, plays in. So it's not about actual mountains. So we can get rid of B and E. Even if these names of mountains in the third stanza were indeed real mountains, the poem is still not about them. It's about the hay and the child's experience of it. Okay. Coetor says, everyone have a lugubrious and desolate birthday. That's someone after my own heart. Okay, man's tragic destruction of nature. Well, this is about the destruction of nature, I suppose. But, I mean, this is grass that's been planted by a farmer to be mown and turned into hay. Is that tragic? I mean, it's going to grow again the next year. It's not really nature in its wild form. And I don't see any tragedy. These things are brought in and the child seems absolutely delighted by it and they're clambering all over it and saying how happy they are. I do not see this. I don't see tragedy. I don't even really see destruction of nature. But it's definitely not tragic. If you find that in a poem, you've read it in a very peculiar fashion. Maybe like this. Through all the pleasant mountainside, the grass grew shoulder high, till the shining scythes went far and wide, and cut it down to die. No, it's not tragic. It's in no way tragic. How much happier life is for children than for adults. Well, that looks plausible, doesn't it? It says, the mice that in these mountains dwell, no happier are than I. Oh, what a joy to clamber there. Oh, what a place to play. Oh, frabjous joy, taluta. No, it's a different poem. But anyway, so there's a lot of joy, maybe. D, the magic of imagination and transformation. So there's a lot of imagination here because the piles of hay are imagined as though they're great mountains and they're given names and they're the happy hills of hay. So that seems really plausible. So which is better? C or D? Is it about how much happier life is for children than for adults? Well, if we only looked at the first half of C, life is happy, then of course that would be a very convincing answer. But how much happier life is for children than for adults? Now this person is a child and they are happy. But is there anything in this poem, people, to suggest that children are happier than adults? Not really. It's just about how happy this person is being a child. There's no comparison made. And so C is kind of almost there, but not quite. Whereas D really captures the whole thing. All this poem is about the power of imagination to transform things and make them magical and wonderful and exciting. So D is the best answer. It is better than C, even if C might in some ways, but only in some ways, be right. Goodness me, I shouldn't do silly voices. I just, maybe it's my voice that's making me cough. Maybe I should only do silly voices. Who knows? Who knows? It's an impossible conundrum. Can I fit this one in? No. Okay. Magic. Shrink, shrink, shrink. Is that going to fit now? Yes, not the answer space, but we can do without that. Okay. So, someone's identified my little impro there as being a reference to Jabberwocky. Very good. Queenie Jess Chong. Excellent. Sorry, I thought someone else said it, but no, it was you saying it twice. Good. The alpaca is pleased with you. Through all the pleasant mountainside the grass grew shoulder high, till the shining scythes went far and wide. Snicker-snap, snicker-snap. No. And cut it down to dry. In the phrases grass grew and shining scythes, consecutive words begin with the same or almost the same letter sound. Now, you might not know the word consecutive, but you should be able to work out what it means, because it means words immediately following each other. Grass grew, shining scythes. Okay? G-g, sh-s. Sh and s are almost the same letter sound, not quite the same. That's why I've been nice and precise and said almost the same letter sound. Which of the following options... Oh, itchy nose. Excuse me a moment. I need to blow it. There we are. Which of the following options best explains the effect of these repeated letter sounds? Notice the wording, best explains. Also note the word effect. So what do we mean when we talk about effect in a text? We're talking about the impression that it creates for the reader, what it makes you feel and think and so on. Okay, how it affects you with an A, that is its effect with an E. The repeated G sounds are like sloshing water, grass grew, and the S's like the swish of spray. We are invited to imagine the meadow as an ocean. Now, the thing about this is, it's going to look really plausible simply because it sounds so fantastically clever. And there's a real problem that often we read things that seem very clever to us and go, well, that must be true because I don't understand it. Which is a very dangerous thing. Often people who say things that sound very clever are in fact just talking rubbish and using their clever words to deceive you. So, in this case, the G sounds are like sloshing water. Really? But... Really? Grass grew. Does that actually sound like sloshing water? I vote no. And the S is like the swish of spray. Shining scythes. Yeah, that's a bit more believable. We are invited to imagine the meadow as an ocean. Is there anything else here about wateriness? The metaphor in this poem is about the hay being like mountains when it's piled up. I don't get anything about the grass being like an ocean, and the GG like sloshing water is tenuous in the extreme. That means it's a real stretch. Not convinced. Not going to absolutely rule it out, because it could just be that the question setter was getting a bit too clever by half and they really believe this, but it does not convince me at all. They are designed to show off the poet's skill. What's so skillful about starting two words after each other with the same letter? I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, if I said, look at this pathetic paper, have I shown great skill? No, I have not. I've just said a silly thing, but the words happen to have the same letter sound. There's nothing especially skillful about it. Anyway, just like with that previous one where we spoke about, which was one, oh yeah, E here, the poet has run out of ideas so has to repeat themselves. Don't get seduced by questions that imply that the poet is basically a bit of a twit. You should always assume that they're doing sensible things for a sensible reason, even if, privately, you don't happen to believe it. So, no, not B. They're going to have a purpose beyond just showing off, because they're only going to be skillful if they have a good effect, and if they have a good effect, then it's going to be listed somewhere here, probably. C. Grass grew has a firm, determined sound. Grass grew. Grass, go. Yeah, maybe. Making the reader think of grass that stands proudly to a great height. The grass grew. Yeah, I guess so, a bit. The S sounds of shining scythes are like the swishing of blades as they cut through the grass. Yes, very much. So, I like this one. I think this one's a maybe. But also, this has some use for me in the sort of logic that I'm using to rule things out. Because A, I found really tenuous, I said. G like sloshing water. The grass like an ocean. These things don't really work, and they're not supported by anything else in the poem. C is better than A. So even though I'm not sure about C, the fact it's better than A means if I have to pick one of those, I'll pick C. So I'm never going to pick A, so I can cross out A. The poet didn't intend them. They're a coincidence. See my comment on B. We should always assume that when we're analysing a text that everything is being done for a purpose. The repeated letters have a hypnotic effect, entrancing us like the grass that is tricked into allowing itself to be killed. I want to say something else about D, actually, because I said something at the end I don't quite believe in, actually, and I don't like doing that. If you're looking at some book, there may be odd things in it that you can say, well, this is an accident. But when you're given a text in an exam, you should always work on the basis that everything there is deliberate and comment on it as such. And just accident is never going to be the right answer. That's what I'm getting at. Anyway, right, on to E, sorry. The hypnotic effect, we spoke about this when we were talking about the wind poem, didn't we? Entrancing us like the grass that is tricked into allowing itself to be killed. Well, we can debate whether these letters have a hypnotic effect and whether they really entrance us. I mean, I think that's pushing things a bit far. But the grass that is tricked into allowing itself to be killed. Well, the killing of the grass, in inverted commas, is only the first stanza. Let's read that again. Through all the pleasant meadow side, the grass grew shoulder high, till the shining sides went far and wide and cut it down to dry. There is nothing there about the grass being tricked, and there's certainly nothing about it allowing itself to be killed. Yeah, this isn't some kind of, Easter metaphor. It's just, no, E is just pretentious nonsense. It is not the answer. And so we're left with C. And there we are, and that's our answer. Great, onwards. The mice that in these mountains dwell no happier than I. I'm feeling less happy than I was when I started because I'm starting to cook because it's really hot here. I've got the lights on me and it's most unpleasant. So I'm going to turn the fan on. So it's going to be a little bit of background noise, but otherwise I might keel over and that would be very distressing for everybody. Here we are. Here's the fan pointing at me. It's going to blow all my notes, so never mind. I haven't been looking at my notes anyway, so we're all fine. I'm not even on the right page of my notes, so there we are. My notes, who cares about my notes? I'm not looking at them. The mice that in these mountains dwell, no happier are than I. What do these lines mean? Tell me, what do they mean? The narrator is happier than the mice in the hayloft. The mice are happier than the narrator. Only a mouse could be happier than the narrator. Mice living in mountains are not happier than the narrator. The narrator is at least as happy as the mice that live in the haystacks. It's a logic puzzle. What is this, a verbal reasoning paper? Yes, it is, because comprehension is a form of verbal reasoning. Deal with it. Okay. The narrator is happier than the mice in the hayloft. A lot of these questions revolve around who is happier than whom. So let's get into that. The mice that in these mountains dwell, no happier are than I. So the first thing to say is that the mice are not happier than the narrator. So we can get rid of B. The mice that in these mountains dwell, no happier are than I. Well, this is where we really get into logic. So they are not happier. Does that mean that the narrator is happier than the mice? So if I said, that person over there, it's an imaginary person, I'll call him Percival. There we are, Percival over there. So Percival is not happier than me. What does this mean? Well, it certainly means what it says, but does it mean that I am happier than Percival? No. If Percival had just the same amount of happiness as me, however one would measure that, I could still say Percival is not happier than me. I could still say it. So this statement, the mice no happier are than I, includes a possibility that they have the same amount of happiness. So it does not mean that the narrator is happier than the mice. That could be true, but it is not what these lines are saying. Only a mouse could be happier than the narrator. The mice aren't happier. I should have crossed that out before. Mice living in mountains are not happier than the narrator. Well, they are not happier, so that's right. But mice living in mountains. Well, it says the mice that in these mountains dwell, line 49. But these are not real mountains, are they? We've established that. These are just mountains of hay that we are metaphorically treating as, that are metaphorically described as though they're mountains. They're not really mountains, so I don't really like D. The narrator is at least as happy as the mice that live in the haystacks. So at least as happy. So he could be the same amount of happiness, or he could be more. And this one puts the mouse in the haystacks, which is right. So E is a better match than D. So yeah, it's a logic problem. It's really a verbal reasoning problem. And and I like the fact actually that there is a bit of debate in the comments between D and E. It's good to know that these aren't completely easy questions. And this, I think, is, yes, it's the last one, because then we get onto the ads at the back of the worksheet. By the way, for anybody who doesn't know, anybody who's here for the first time, I should have said this earlier, the worksheet for every lesson is linked in the video description, which is down there. And there's also a list called Video List that lists every single lesson that I have ever done, and a link to the worksheet for each of those lessons. And you can print out the worksheets, do them yourself, and what I recommend is that for each lesson, you do the worksheet and then watch the lesson, comparing your answers to my answers and thinking about it all. And then if you're super keen, which of course you are, after the lesson, maybe a few days later, then come back and have another go at the worksheet and see whether you can remember the advice that I gave in the lesson. And that's how you will really learn to think like me, which is possibly a nightmare worse than 5 hours of water torture or something. But anyway, which of the following statements is most accurate? Last question. Concentrate. Concentrate. Abel Abraham in the comments, concentrate. Stop talking about how much you're enjoying yourself. If you're enjoying yourself, you're not concentrating. Which of the following statements is most accurate? The narrator loses track of reality, coming to really believe that they are playing in the mountains. The narrator knows that they are not playing in real mountains, but enjoys imagining that they are doing so. Okay, let's just look at these two for a start. So the narrator loses track of reality, coming to really believe that they're playing, and B, knows they're not playing in real mountains. So let's see which of these is true. Do they really believe they're in the mountains, or do they lose track? Well, last line of the poem. The happy hills of hay. So even at the very end, when you'd expect them to be most confused, if they were getting more and more confused and losing track of reality, they know that these are hills of hay, not actual mountains. So A is not true. They do not come to really believe they are playing in mountains. Whereas B says the narrator knows they're not playing in real mountains. Yup. But enjoys imagining that they're doing so. They're the happy hills of play. Oh, what joy to clamber here. So, I like B. Looked pretty good. I can't really see anything wrong with it. So I think that might be the answer, but we're going to check the others. Always check the others, you never know. The narrator's perception of reality is so confused that it's hard to know what they believe. They say it. They say these are happy hills of hay. They couldn't be any clearer. These are not mountains, but they're like mountains, and they like playing in them. It's simple. No, I think they know exactly what they believe. Don't agree with C at all. What we believe about the narrator's situation depends on whether we read the words on the page or hear them read aloud. No. There's absolutely nothing to suggest that this poem would convey some spectacularly different meaning if we read it aloud. The reader is led into the narrator's own confusion, so that in the end it's impossible to be sure whether the poem describes real mountains or mere haystacks. It's completely obvious it's describing haystacks, and the narrator is not confused. So E is wrong in every conceivable fashion. It's not E, it's B. We're there. We've done it, people. Except I haven't done a B, I've done some Greek character or other, whose name I forget. So let's make that into a B instead. I used, with this software, just to be able to turn my pen over and use the other end as a rubber. But now that's stopped working. I have to select the rubber instead. This is technology moving backwards to confound my life and ruin your viewing experience. I hope you're going to write letters to Microsoft. Anyway, there we are. We've done it. We're there. Yes. Good. What am I saying? What am I even doing here? Okay. Let's get on to... Oh crumbs, it's the tip of the week. It is the tip of the week. Right, so now I have to very quickly come up with the tip of the week because I was so busy getting ready for this and being excited about it with my 100th lesson, but I've forgotten to come up with a tip of the week for my 100th lesson. But I have one, because I have a great tip, because only this week I've been updating the famous video list that I mentioned, which lists all my videos on this channel, and I have added something to it. So at the top of that list now, there are links to all my playlists. What are Robert's playlists, you may be asking? This sounds exciting. It isn't exciting at all, but it still might be useful. My playlists are where I put together all my videos on particular topics. So let's say, for example, that you really want to work on your multiple choice comprehension. There is a playlist, and if you click on that playlist, you will see a list of all my videos on multiple choice comprehension, including this one after this has gone out. And then you can go through those videos, watching them in order or watching them in any order you like, and you can really become masters of doing multiple choice comprehension like me, and you'll be all set to go and fail your exams. Same applies. There are playlists for things like core maths skills, advanced maths, reasoning, and so on. Creative writing, written comprehension. Any useful topic, there's a playlist for it. So that might be useful if you want to be able to sort of bring your learning together. So that's another reason to have a look at my magic video list. You can print it out, but actually probably more useful to save a link to it somewhere in your web browser, because I update it each week when I put new videos out, and you can go there and you can always find the most up-to-date information about all my videos on the channel. It also tells you which videos are only available to channel members. If you want to become a member, click join under the video. Anyway, right, that's my tip of the week. Make use of my playlists. Fantastic tip, wasn't it? Fantastic. You would never have guessed that I came up with it while the tip of the week logo was playing across the screen. Right, let's get away from this. Yes, let's take some questions. Unfortunately, the only questions I can currently see are: who can think of the best names for a 3D cat? I've never seen a 2D cat. I don't wish to see one. It would imply that it would be run over very hard by a lorry. So, you know, best name for a 3D cat? Dimitri, Grigri. Although Dimitri is really called, his pedigree name, Creek Angel Dimitri. And Grigri is, of all things, Jeffrey Grigori Heiliger Quelle. So there we are. So yes, those are some names for 3D cats, which I would say apply to all living cats. Other questions we have: what does Fireman Nazreen? But does Fireman Nazreen know me? Not only does she know you, Farjana Amam, but she knows all your secrets. But why did Robert trick us last video? Is another question. I have absolutely no idea what this question is about. I may well have tricked you last video, but I mean, you don't think I remember what I say from lesson to lesson, do you? Yeah, fam, how much is your book? It might be $14.99 or $15.99, depending on what book it is. But on Amazon, they are often discounted because the folks at Amazon are fantastically generous people. Yeah, not a description of Mr. Bezos you'll often hear. Anyway, the prices are often lower when you go on Amazon, and you can also get them secondhand from various sellers. Prue, why is there screaming? Because I'm murdering someone under the desk? No. I think I know what it is. Yeah, my window's open and there were some people playing football in the square outside. That's probably what you're hearing. Can we see your cats? Maybe if there's one nearby when I finish shortly. What are you doing for the 100th live? This is literally the 100th live. I am doing it right now. Miftul says, I have a cat called Dimitri. I want to hear more about your cat called Dimitri. It's the greatest cat name, apart from Grigri. Don't want to cause offence to any cats. Can we see your cats? Trouble is, I've swapped workspaces with my wife, so I used to be outside on a table in the sort of living space, whereas now I'm in the spare bedroom / office. So I've got a door there, which is quite useful for doing this, but it does mean that there's a door between me and the cats, so I can't just go and grab one so easily. Maybe. As cats literally eat our brain. I suppose that would explain many things, I guess, if I was unaware of it. Can you bring a protractor in the exam? It depends on the rules of the exam, but yes, probably. People play nicely, thank you. Why does it say O and not O in the snow? I haven't got the snow in front of me, to be honest, so I can't check, but it was very common in older writing, basically. It's quite old poems. Now, if it was a modern poem, people would be more likely to write O-H. Why did you choose poems from your namesake? Oh, Robert Louis Stevenson. Coincidence. Just coincidence. or should I say because I am the reincarnation of Robert Louis Stevenson, but that would be a little self-flattering, and I'm not. Will you do an extra lessons because the 11 plus is in 2 months? No, I won't. Because, I mean, you know, you have 11 plus in 2 months, someone else has it in 3 months, someone else has it in November, someone has it in January. People have them at different times. So, you know, let's put it this way. I'm always doing extra lessons because there's always an 11 plus coming up. These are extra lessons. Nobody's paying me for them, not directly anyway. You are only if you go and buy my stuff. Please buy my stuff, thank you. What is the best 11 plus routine? Watching Easy 11 plus. Can you go to an open evening in year 6? I don't think you want me to turn up at your open evening. It would be a little bit weird. How do you study this month? Largely by avoiding it where there's much too nice. Nadia, Robert, I'm a huge fan. This is my first live ever, and I'm so happily I managed to get on this. Fantastic to have you. Wonderful. I delight in new viewers, probably a lot more than you're delighting in it by this point. What is the best grammar school? The one that you're replying to. How old are you? 85 now. How old are you? Spelled with an R this time. 86. Please, can you make shorts again? I'm not very good at sewing, so I don't think you want me to do that. Yeah, that will probably cover us for now. All right, people. It's been an absolute joy. I'm just checking my calendar because I've just thought of something. Yes, next week, which is the 4th of July, there will be no live lesson because I'm not here. But and that might actually also apply the. Yeah, it might actually be the next 2 weeks. I think it's not because I'm on some wonderful holiday. I'm just, you know, off doing things that one needs to do. Yeah, so you might be getting a little bit of a holiday. I'm sorry about that, or maybe you'll be delighted. But keep an eye on your emails. If you want to find out about things like when there's a lesson and when there isn't, and what the next lesson is going to be, and whether you're going to get a worksheet and all that kind of nonsense, you want to be in my mailing list. And the easiest way to be in my mailing list is to go to the link in the video description to my free resources on my website. Sign up for the free resources. You will also get added to my mailing list, and you will get emails telling you about stuff like that. Exciting facts. Right, lots of people asking for cats. I'm just going to see if there's a cat right outside the door, in which case I'll grab it. Otherwise, I'll come back and say goodbye, sadly, without a cat, because I know I am considerably less cute. Let's check. So, what do we have? No, there are no cats in easy reach, so I'm just going to come back and say goodbye. So thank you for your patience. It's been a relatively long lesson, but you've all been wonderful, and I really look forward to seeing you next time, which might actually be, I fear, in 3 weeks, but we will see. As I say, get on my mailing list, and you'll have all the latest news, the latest gen, as they'd have said in, you know, a Jennings book or something. Not that you know what that is. All right. Enough rubbish from me. You've been great, and I will see you soon. Oh, check out my free marking offer. You can send me stories, comprehensions, anything you've written, as long as it's quite short. And you can get my personal feedback in voice comments and little videos. And it's going to be just the most wonderful thing. The most wonderful thing, as Mr. Trump would probably say. All right, he'd say it was a beautiful thing.